those comments. Okay, we ready, council? Call this regular council meeting 2013-10-22 to order, and a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. All in favor? Motion passes. Adoption of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion. All in favor? Motion passes. Business arising from the minutes. Report from the administrator.
The project lists that I created for elsewhere in the agenda there are intended to replace that short-term action chart and provide you with a bit more overview on a bi-weekly or monthly basis. Council view I'm going to keep internal, but if you ever want to see it, bring it forward. Prioritising some of the projects that you've got listed there on items B and C in the agenda. We're meeting a committee of the whole on November 5th. We should probably have a good discussion at that point, how we start to prioritise what is a very lengthy list in some areas. Some projects are more achievable than others. So that's just a little update for Public Works has been engaging in some maintenance work at the sewer treatment plant. The fall pickup will occur in the next few days, and former walkers currently costing a fair number of items from the last committee, the whole finance meeting. Broadband, we have to make one further change to satisfy the KIN board on the agreement. We thought we were there, but we weren't. There's still one more provision to go in, aren't they? They also made the unfortunate discovery about the generator that you see there. After all the fun we had with the idea of losing it. Now, replacing the generator formed by Glen would probably, we wouldn't need one quite as large, but at minimum it would probably be a $20,000 expenditure. I fairly barely put that to the KIN that they could certainly recommend to council that that be a budget item for next year if they wished. But there were certainly no funds available within taxation requisition for a new generator this year. I kind of suggested it would have been good to known this a little earlier in the game. Anyway, they're moving forward, at least temporarily, with a battery concept. But there's a whole bunch of other things going on in the CBBC world right now. I've requested some conversations with the Columbia Basin Trust as well. Just because there's been a big announcement rolled out of expansion. I'm not sure if we have the information we need for KIN to get moving on what it will take to get this building up and running. And I really worry it's not going to happen this side of Christmas time. We're fully capitalised, we're ready to go, but I don't think KIN are now. So they need to have their discussions before we can get moving on that. Agenda changes. Sorry.
Should we do the questions one at a time or at the end, or how do you want to do it? As we go through. So I was just wondering, without, if it's not technical, what the problem with the generator is that's down there?
It's something to do with the automatic switching mechanism.
So it can't get an automatic switching mechanism on?
I think that's the conclusion they've come to. Yeah. So they are, of course, now very supportive of the idea of that generator going to the fire hall. Yeah,
because the thing is there either. That was my next question. Save some money, didn't we?
So that long term, maybe batteries will suffice, and when there is a power cut, a portable generator could be used to make sure their equipment doesn't go down. But
well, then that generator must be good for you can charge batteries. Just have that somebody can turn it on within 4 or 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah. It should should be manageable. I'm hoping that everything can move forward. The funding from CIDIT is there now. We've invoiced them for it. The contribution agreement came. So there's $80,000 of grant aid at the Kaslo end now to get the Kendall connected and start the rollout. But I think there's been a number of internal changes at CBBC that have maybe caused a little bit of concern for Ken. So I hope it'll move forward quickly. Our agreement with CBBC for it to be our ISP doesn't really take effect until we've actually got internet service. So at the moment it's just a cable in the basement.
Okay, so on to agenda changes.
Yeah, and this is just a suggestion. Again, I apologise for experimenting or trying new things as we move along, but I was worried when we had a particularly large agenda recently that the amount of time that's been taken up with some correspondence items at the beginning of meetings before we actually get to sessions and reports and recommendations. I don't want council to feel hurried in dealing with actual business. For example, selecting a streetlight contractor or something like that, that might be something you would spend some time on. So I'm after some consultation with some other CAOs, I was informed it was fairly commonplace that pieces of correspondence that don't request a resolution of council are put under item 6 or our equivalent item 6, communications for information, and council can pull and respond to these if they wish. I can also respond for council if they don't wish to. A response will always be issued though. I can run it past them. So I'm just recommending that discussion of any items from 6 be referred to new business in the interest of the smooth flow of council meeting business.
Councillor Hewitt moves, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, all in favor, motion passes. Good move. Okay, office building.
Okay. We currently have a number of items being priced for improvements in the Kendall building in conjunction with the Committee of the Whole Finance for 2014. Again, that goes back to what we were talking about with broadband earlier. What could be possible in this room if we get everything connected up? So fingers crossed there. Build Canada. It is widely believed, but not official in any respect, that the Build Canada program will shortly be launched. It's a fairly fast turnaround. I've seen that happen in the past. It won't happen in a 3-week period before Christmas. If this happens in that way, I've talked to staff and we believe that there's 4 projects that potentially we're ready to go, depending on what stage they were at. One would be the river intake project, if the deadlines didn't come up too soon and they weren't too onerous in terms of engineering specifications at the application stage. 2, elements of City Hall renovation. There's quite a lot put together there already. 3, street lighting. There was a significant proposal submitted to Towns for Tomorrow that wasn't successful in the past, that could be updated. And 4, Water Street. Again, given our earlier discussion, we may lack the specifications necessary at this time, but we might be able to put something together for Water Street. I'm just suggesting, you don't need to, I'm not suggesting you pass a resolution right now, but I'm suggesting you might want to try and pick 2 at this point, that maybe that you would identify as ones you'd like to see developed further in anticipation of an imminent grant announcement.
I'd like to suggest the Castle River Intake Project, based on what happened last year, because water is the absolute essential thing, and Councillor Lang's been involved in that situation. So I think that will kind of be in terms of what's in the best interest of the community at this point, is the security of the Castle River intake. But I don't know what other councillors.
Well, that one and Water Street seem like the 2 priorities to me.
Can I ask what elements of Water Street would be eligible?
And it would be a stretch in some places, but some of the the curb and gutter drainage aspects would possibly be eligible. It might not be a big ticket proposal. That's the only thing that occurred to me when I looked at it, because it would be a stretch to get paving out of it.
Right.
Yeah. But the recreation aspect would fit. But I've been looking at that as a secondary phase project, maybe even for 2015, if we got paving and gutter and curb done next year.
Councillor Hewitt.
And what about City Hall? What things would fit under that?
Basically, under the smaller community municipal infrastructure criteria, it's fairly broad, at least on the last round that's currently up online. It was fairly broad. My priority for City Hall would be to try and get the main floor refurbished and functional again. Heritage funding would have to take care of the core area and the exterior. But that internal level, that's really a project that's sitting and waiting in isolation within the work that needs done there. I think that one could have potential.
Any further questions? So do we want to agree on two projects and that staff can then prepare reports on?
Well, can we wait and have more discussion at committee of the whole when Councillor Leaflet is here? Because, you know, they all have merit, definitely. But my preference would be for 1 and 2.
Well, you know, if we can agree to give staff some direction so they can start to assemble the information necessary to make a decision. The thing out of the committee of the whole, there's no recommendation going to come out here. We're listening to what issues are there. But if those two appear to be, if the Castle River intake and the elements of the City Hall renovation appear to be, see, the City Hall renovation would be good to get some more information on anyway, irregardless of which way it goes. It may be fundable, it may not be fundable, I don't know. But if we could agree to give some staff direction to further explore the first two, then I think they could be comfortable in gathering the information necessary for us to be more informed. Councillor Lang.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I just think that we should be moving ahead on all of these projects, and when the time comes, we have to evaluate them in terms of their likelihood of success. You know, like, we should pick the projects that are most likely to meet the criteria and we're best able to deal with. You know, so I think that staff should be instructed to move ahead on acquiring more information on this. So, you know, because we will get another kick at the cat once the information is released or a date set for the intake.
Is that clear enough for you?
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's fair enough.
Okay. So now we're on project lists.
Yeah.
Okay, I will hit.
These are just there for your review and comment.
Okay. Now I've got projects underlined, and then in blue I've got second P list. So which one do I do? Oh, I did something. What's thinking? Invitation to participate in mobile bill event.
Oh, there are 2 lists.
Okay.
So each one is one of the lists. One is municipal services, and the other one is public works.
Yeah, but yes, staff tried to retain the rough shape of the 2 lists from standing committees, at least for the time being. I did make a couple of slight changes since the last time you saw this. I ran just the E Avenue street lighting on the bottom of the planning development list. I've eliminated a couple of things that have been done. And on municipal service and operations project list, basically I've made a comment about ongoing office financial systems review and modernisation. Staff are already making an approach to the credit union to try and go electronic with direct payment and billing. It appears to be quite affordable, even within the current budgetary scope. And we're going to give it a go and try and have it ready for January. Try. Carol and I also were in New Denver last week to have a look at the Maze system there, and we'll probably bring a report forward on the subject of Maze projects for next year, and I think one will be getting payroll onto Maze. So I'll keep you posted on other developments there.
Okay. So moving on to the fives. 5A. City of Nelson.
And we
Councillor
need to receive the 2 projects
Seconder?
and the report from the administrator, because we haven't received that, have we?
No.
Motion to receive the administrator's report, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, all in favor, motion passes. Did you put your hand up, Rob, or what?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just trying to be helpful.
And the project lists.
And the project lists.
Got it.
Let me try and get back. Okay, I think I'm slowly getting it, Susan, here. Because it says 2013 is what is the one I'm hitting that brings up my agenda.
Yeah,
Is that what
okay,
yours says?
looks, probably because yours is a different version,
Okay, great. All right, here we go.
but you still got it.
I got it, yeah, okay. So the CAO recommends a positive response as alternative to current bylaw review, allows a full weighing of all options, no commitment needed at this time other than participation in the evaluation. Where we get that?
It's not it's basically, I thought this was an interesting initiative if they follow through on it. All it is a commitment to participate in an assessment and see what it might mean. So council would be free to go no further if they didn't like what that looked like. But it is probably the one-time shot at mobile business licensing we'll see in the next few years in the area. Just looking at it, I think it would be better to be part of the evaluation than not to be.
So this was a Community Futures meeting, and it was discussed, and it was Nelson and Castlegar agreed to do it. Trail opted out of doing it, which I don't understand, but anyway, that was the story. But I did say at that meeting that Castle would be interested, which is why Neil is following up on it. And the way it was explained by Tom Thompson from the Chamber of Commerce is it really speeds things up in relative terms. The one downside might be that the business license revenue would be reduced in Castle.
Possibly, or it may go up. That's the question the assessment would have to answer.
Right, because we get some of that stuff from Nelson.
Castle currently has some enforcement challenges with business licensing,
Yeah.
and with businesses that operate within the municipal boundary that aren't based here. So a mobile licensing system would perhaps capture more. That's the theory.
Okay, any further on that?
So I'll move that we express interest, ability to participate in the analysis.
Okay. Second? Second by Councillor Holland. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. Oh,
I did attend, it was at the UBCM, maybe not
Oh.
last year, but the year
Yeah,
before, they
yeah.
talked about the mobile
Yeah.
business licensing, and we had quite a discussion on, I think it was to do with compliance on business licenses and how, the challenges that communities have. It was interesting.
yeah, well, so anyway, the Nelson Chamber of Commerce and the City of Castle are quite interested in doing it because they're, contractors going back and forth. I think Trail, it got complicated because you've got Rossland
And they already participated
They've already
in
got
one, yeah.
Trail already has one with those communities.
with those communities, yeah. So they didn't want to open that up to the whole area. They wanted to defend their
Well, I think what I
contract.
read is once this happens up here, then they're going to look at a relationship between that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Neil will give us a report on that. So on to 5B.
I'm just providing this for council as information, and we did receive a response from Dr. Avery. There's a flurry of meetings coming in the next few days.
With IHA?
Yes, the Vice President, I can't remember his full title, Mr. Nooner, is going to be here on Monday to meet with the Mayor and Director Shadrach and the Health Group. And we just found that out today. So there's quite a lot going on, but IHA haven't indicated any view on the request to the Rural Coordination Centre yet.
Okay. Council may wish to contact if no response is received by October 22nd.
Well, that was today. That was before we found out.
Yeah, okay. And I've got a brief report there when it comes to reports. Okay, communication for information and a motion to receive all. Somebody want to pull one? Or?
No, I'm just wondering about these items where we want to maybe have a response on J and N. You want to receive all except J and N, or you want to?
My suggestion was to move them to new business in the agenda so that you can.
Okay, so I'll move that we receive all except J and N.
Second?
Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes.
And I'll move that we refer J and N to new business.
Second Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. Okay, committee and staff reports. Finance. Motion to receive. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Lang. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. Staff report age-friendly grant. Recommendation and report. So this is, so do I hit the red one or the blue one? Staff
Should be the
report.
blue one.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just, yeah, okay. Oh. Shoot. Okay, where am I here?
Be 7B.
Just a minute, I mean, like this big thing is really a problem. So we're on 7B, right? Staff report. Okay, there we go. Okay.
I'll move the resolution that the Village of Kaslo strongly support Kaslo Senior Service and Access Coordination Project as submitted to UBCM Senior Housing in support of initiative in partnership with the North Kootenai Lake Community Service Society.
Seconder? Second by Councilor Lang. Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, Council Water Intake Staff Report.
Okay. Before I say anything, I didn't conspire to give them all similar marks to make it hard for you. I do require some authorization to proceed with a service contract for the option study for the Newcastle River Water Intake and Emergency Power Generation Project. Staff put the 3 detailed proposals in the folder there for you to review if you wanted to over the weekend. An RFP was issued in September to engineering firms and 3 responded. It's been brought forward due to delays with the Avenue Waterline project. What we received were 3 very competitive proposals, each with their strengths and weaknesses. The costs ranged from about $9,000 plus GST to nearly $20,000 plus GST. They all have a local presence and have good reputations in their fields, and the proposed approaches are all similar and completely to a high standard, which doesn't make it easy. I had a long discussion with Public Works foreman about these proposals, and we were both satisfied that just in terms of an age on this process, that we thought 9-Dot Engineering seemed to have a positive emerging reputation in the local area for valiant work. And they were first out the door with their proposal, first to come and visit. But of the 3, they're certainly not the most experienced. But they seem to be well thought of in some of their local reference communities. True and urban systems are also very good. but the 9 dot does present a cost-effective opportunity to establish a relationship with a third company in the area. It's not a high-cost project, so Glenn and I basically put this recommendation forward. However, council has other thoughts. This is a fairly evenly balanced process.
I'd like to move the recommendation that a service contract be offered to 9 Dot Engineering for the purpose of producing an optional study for Kaslo River water intake and its emergency power specifications.
Second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion. Councillor Lang.
I noticed in 9 dot they used the Mirror Lake as one of their references. Was there any contact made with any of the folks down there?
No, we approached the other municipalities.
Okay. And by accepting this tender, we're under no obligation to hire the same company to go ahead and build the...
No. You could make this recommendation subject to checking with the Mirror Lake reference if you wish.
I'm fine with that.
Fine with it as it is right
No,
now.
I'm fine with accepting it based on contact with the Mirror Lake.
Would that be a friendly amendment then?
I'm wondering what would be the outcome of that. Would that mean that he would report back to us with the Mirror Lake stuff before we move forward, or would he still move forward?
Councillor Lang.
Well, my suggestion would be if there's no concerns that the tender be let.
But if,
So we're leaving it up to the CAO.
Yeah.
okay.
Sure. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion passed. Okay, now we're on D there, 7D. This is in the Best Candidate Community Initiative, is that?
Yep.
Where did you get your little pens, Susan?
Oh, they had some other ones at UBCM this year.
Is that right? Oh, okay.
Longer pens. I
Okay.
actually grabbed one.
Okay.
Maybe I grabbed two.
Okay, staff report.
This is a somewhat wordy proposal, but it's designed to fill a nasty number of very specific fields in an online submission program. So it is a little bit. It doesn't look the best at times. I've given it the title, just to give it a title, the Kaslo Broadband Business Growth, Retention and Expansion Process.
Mm-hmm.
But what it really is an attempt to blend the need for a profile or scan of the local community, business sector, deal with the opportunities we have with the imminent broadband, and do some marketing and promotion at the same time within a reasonable budget. And this was essentially what I came up with in terms of an outline. The key steps are identified there, the key objectives rather, on the second page. We're building an asset map for small to medium enterprise development in the context of FDI. Build an FDI, domestic business retention expansion strategy based on an asset map. Asset map is really a different term for profile. It's one that's been used more in recent years. It's really to try and score as many points as we can with the funding, the funders in terms of the works I used there. The current high-speed broadband initiatives in the unique setting of Kaslo as a leading tourism and lifestyle destination be addressed strongly in emergent initiatives. Market the asset map and strategy effectively through our website with new content optimized for search engines and social media. I make it our website because there's an existing arrangement. That means that you don't have to start from scratch, and also there's a management ability with in-house already, so you don't have the obstacles that other organisations run into if they're on finite funding. generating increased marketing reach and levels of interest in Caslow's businesses, lands and infrastructure development, including niche modern business adaptation for heritage buildings. That was a stretch, but I'm going to try. I've got to further develop it for the big submission. There's a lot more fields, but that's essentially the outline. So if council want to proceed with this, I can take a few more bits of response from the Science Committee, but I've got to get this done before the end of the month and get it submitted to the federal government.
The end of October?
Before the end of October. I've only got about maybe 5 days.
I'll move the recommendation. The village submit a proposal for the Kaslo Broadband Business Growth, Retention, and Expansion Project to invest Canada Community Initiatives and the Columbia Basin Trust.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Good job, Neil, for identifying this, because, I think the more momentum we get on this, something is good has come out of it. I really like this. Okay, you're clear on then what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Staff report. Community forest, motion to receive, moved by Councillor Hewitt. Second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. Councillor Leithwood, UBCM report, motion to receive, moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. Director Holland, report verbal.
Yeah, so there was quite a bit went on this week. Start off with strategic priority setting session at the regional district for 2 days on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's facilitated by Gar McIntosh, and it usually is the usual highly productive program. To go through that down there, basically where it's in place. So the main takeaway was the importance of doing exactly what we're going to do at the next committee of whole, that we have our strategic priority setting session with our wish list, so that we can start to narrow down possibilities for what's funded and what won't be funded. The regional district board meeting was on Thursday, and there was a couple things that happened there that I'll report to council. One was there was a delegation from the Fire Underwriter Survey, and it was a pretty charged encounter between the board and the person, I can't remember his name, but he was sure up for the task of bringing some bad news. So they're trying to shift the fire coverage area from the 13-kilometer mark, which is what our fire service, down to 8 kilometers, which changes things significantly. There's a lot of headbutting going on in that, and I heard that after the meeting, the FUS guy backed off and started admitting that he'd made a mistake, that the 13-kilometer limit was not necessarily something or that the 8-kilometer mark was not something necessarily written in stone, that there was some flexibility around that. But one of the offshoots of that was that the regional district is talking to ICBC now around having them getting in the fire insurance business. So that we have access to fire insurance through the Crown Corporation in order to break the back of the monopoly that's happening between the fire underwriter service and the current underwriters. So that's a very interesting notion, and they're working on that. The CBBC program is they're working on moving that forward for the regional, as a regional initiative, which is, we're kind of separate, we're a little bit different because of what we're doing, but what they're doing is they're forming some regional broadband committees, and probably at some point we'll want to be in touch with what's going on regionally in the area outside our boundaries, because there'll be some overlap for sure. So, I mean, I'll just keep tabs on that, but basically the main take home of that was Columbia Basin Trust is going to continue to subsidize Columbia Broadband Corporation and broadband services. There's a big commitment on that front. There was a great PowerPoint that they put on. We'll try to get that PowerPoint as soon as we can. Then we had some verbal reports from directors. I'm not exactly sure, but Director Binks spoke met with the Ministry of Health at the UBCM. And he is retired from working British Columbia Ambulance Service. He was like the executive director, one of the top people in that for a long time. Lawrence Chernoff, sitting next to him at the board table, is also retired paramedic. And so between the two of them, they got real deep roots and connections with BC Ambulance Service. So they had read on the morning of the meeting, they had read a letter. I'm not really involved, but they read a letter from the village of Kaslo that, as near as I could tell, it sort of lumped in the BC Ambulance Service in with IHA around the complaints and initiatives that are coming from.
That's the UBCM letter to meet with them down the local down there. I was thinking we were meeting the recent letter, but it's not. It's the one that we set up for Councillor Lang to go to UBCM and meet with the paramedics on.
Well, it was just published in a paper on the morning of our meeting. So Director Binks and Director Chernoff's take on that letter was that it was counterproductive because the BC Ambulance Service, they've been making great strides. They're saying they're making great strides with the BC Ambulance Service around the partnership of the role that they can play in providing medical services to small rural communities like us. And they've been working on it front advocating, because Binks is a rural director, they've been advocating for us on that role. And what they're saying is it was pushing back, it was damaging the work that they had done with BC Ambulance Service. Now, I haven't read the letter, I don't know exactly what it was. It was in the paper that morning. And all they asked that I'm delivering to council is that Kaslo should use caution in its letter writing to IHA and be careful not to lump the ambulance service in with the problems that we're having with IHA. That was another.
I think Director Shadrack had a rebuttal to that, quite frankly.
Well, Director Shadrack asked for a follow-up. He wanted to see the letter because he hadn't seen the letter. So there wasn't much he could say. He hadn't received the letter. He just announced that Kaslo has a good working relationship with BC Ambulance Service, and that what they've been doing has been adequate. So he wanted to see the letter. So he asked to see the letter because he didn't know what the letter said either. That was pretty much that. Then Director Dooley, who sits on the FCM executive, announced that there is a release of federal infrastructure funds coming around $70 billion over 10 years. And that they're saying we should have shelf-ready projects now. Now, also at the same time, because he's really representing the rural areas, they recognize that a lot of small communities getting shelf-ready is a problem. So what they're doing right now is they're working at the federal government level, trying to get a fund created, and I assume it should be some success on it, to support smaller communities in getting projects shelf-ready. So there may be a dual prong, hopefully a dual prong thing coming down from the federal government. One will be for shelf-ready, one may be to help you get shelf-ready projects, right? Maybe you can do both.
And I think he said monitor the website, because that's where the FCM website, because that's where the initiative will come from. And my understanding was that FCM will actually provide the funding through some arrangement with the federal government for, I'll use the term rural and remote communities, but at least it's recognized for the first time that we pay a high price on getting ready for these things, because many like Creston, I don't know how many they've got on the shelf ready to go. They've got the money to hire the engineers to do these things ahead of time. Yeah, no, that was good news, I think.
So the other thing that Director Shadrack wants to be coming from the UBCM, he's reporting from the UBCM executive, is that the UBCM at the convention struck a MMBC committee, and that committee has been struck and they're now working. And it's also another point of contact for you, Neil, around checking up, seeing what's going on there. So you may so that the committee struck, it's available, and they're looking for comments from communities now. and looking, some information exchanging going on.
Okay.
Then there was a surprise at the table that caught me off guard. I wasn't aware of it at all. We're just fixing to review our sustainability, or review the sustainability service at our next committee of the whole meeting. And there was notice of motion from 7 or 8 directors, both rural areas and municipalities, that there was notice of motion for the next agenda for withdrawing from the sustainability service. So that started a pretty good conversation. Like I said, totally caught me by surprise. I hadn't heard anybody talking about that. But where it ended up at the end, and also had conversations at the later on in the week when we ended up meeting all week long together, I don't think, my feeling is it's not going to be completely scrapped. What they're looking for is a significant redefinition. I guess it started off focusing on 3 specific areas. It branched out into a whole bunch of stuff. And I believe it was spurred by the larger municipalities striking this down. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's just going to get revamped. So basically what comes back to us may be a better defined program. But I'm informing council that a majority of the board right now looking like they're going to withdraw from the service. But I still think that the point is to have kind of reworked or reviewed, and maybe it won't die entirely off. I'm not sure. I keep you posted. So after that busy week, we went off on Friday to Creston for the CBT symposium, and they did an excellent job. Of all the stuff that I've been to around CBT initiatives and symposiums and work sessions and seminars, this is the best one. It was spot on. Creston did an excellent job of staging the event. Came off just flawlessly. A lot of good information, a lot of good speakers. The takeaways. I don't want to bore you with a lot. There was a lot of good information, but there was really the main focuses. Community broadband is continuing to be a big focus for development in the area, and there other areas are also wrestling with how to maximize the potential of that. So CBT is going to be putting some more money into that. The Rural Development Institute, I sit on the advisory group. They're working at bringing down more detailed plans and ideas how to utilize that along with the other core things. One of the real things that became a big focus for the last day was that currently the benefits that are coming back to the region as of the end of 2013 is just over $100 million. And that revenue between now and 2016 is going to double. So there's a pretty good massive destructions going on at the Columbia Basin Trust trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do with this sudden influx of cash and that they're going to have. And that broke off into some really interesting conversations, and it was kind of the wrap-up discussion that where a lot of this stuff was leading to all through the weekend, discussing the different aspects of how CBT can function in the community. And it kind of came down to one question: is do they spend the money, invest the money, or deal with it? And that was a really interesting discussion. And what I'll try to do is, I believe there'll be some kind of report coming from CBT rather than me, because it was a pretty big discussion. I'll try to bring back some kind of report from them on that. They did some pretty fancy footwork around presenting policies and everything. And I'll just mention, to close off, we've all been hearing little rumors about the possibility of maybe the province swooping in and taking over and taking control of the power corporation as a crown corporation it is, and all these kind of things. basically what I started learning, I'm gonna say what I heard, maybe you can explain. Because Columbia Basin Trust is a Crown Corporation, all of their assets are listed on the provincial financial statements. So that if Columbia Basin Trust decided to do a sudden disbursement of money or give away a bunch of or something like this, was to expense out of their retained earnings, that has an impact on the provincial budget. And because it's getting fairly large, because the retained earnings of Columbia Basin Trust are actually sitting on the books of the retained earnings of the province.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So what they're strategizing now is trying to figure out how they can dissociate themselves from the provincial books, because if Columbia Basin Trust was to make a significant move one way, with their return earnings, it could throw the province into a deficit situation. Because the retained earnings move out of the retained earnings into expenditures.
Yeah.
It's just making sense. I'm only parroting.
Yeah.
So
if you-
that's where the real danger is, where the executive of the Columbia Basin Trust is being quite. You have to be careful, I believe, when they're talking about the spend side, or maybe I'm not sure about that. But they're saying they've got to be careful. They just can't go hog at this all of a sudden,
Yeah.
because the amount of dollars are now getting so large.
They're
it's kind of
paper
mucking-
dollars.
Yeah,
They're not like real dollars.
Yeah, but it's mucking with
Yeah.
the provincial
Yeah.
financial situation, or their report, whatever. You guys probably have a better handle on it than I. I don't totally get it. I sort of get it, but I don't totally get it. That was it.
Okay, Councilor Lang.
I'd like to ask Councilor Holm to comment on the fire hall project.
There was a motion, yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I had that written right down there, I just assumed that it was. So I moved the motion at the Regional District Board table that NCAN Construction be contracted to complete Phase 1 of the Caslo Fire Hall, with thanks to the Regional District for facilitating the creation of a new fire service and fire hall for the Caslo area. And that was carried. There was a meeting with Terry Swan and Shadrach and Brian Carruthers around trying to sort out some of the what we all felt were some deficiencies in the bidding process around getting a local contractor. It felt pretty good that half the bids came from local contractors. We also felt pretty confident that the local contractors' bids were far enough beyond the reach of the lowest bid that it wasn't practical to take a local contractor or to come from NCAN. There was general agreement that the price that NCAN presented was excellent, highly competitive price. And the focus coming out of that meeting was, and I can pass that on to my counselors here, now that the bid has been, and NCAN had already been contacted to ask if they would accept, and they committed to accept the bid. So what we came out of that basically for this first half of the expenditure of money is we need to go out there and shake the bushes and rattle the trees a little bit and make sure that all our local skilled tradesmen are calling NCAN and bugging the hell out of them. Because with such a highly competitive bid, as much as they may like to keep their own guys working, at the end of the day, they're about making money, and they're not going to want to have to pay living out allowances and hotel rooms for crews for 4 months or so. Our local guys need to put the word out. Our local tradesmen need to contact NCAN immediately and start hounding them. And I believe that we'll have a good representation of the job of local labor if we can do that. Some other specifics you want to ask?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. One was there's a number of options in the tender, and I'm just curious which options they selected.
They selected the N4.
They did.
Yes, and the glazing. So they took, I think it's option 1 and 2, option 1 and 3 now.
Okay.
So they took those 2 options. I spoke to them about the some of the stuff that seemed like were excess or not really necessary, specifically the stormwater drainage.
Right.
And they came back and said that was actually for the type and style of building, that was not an optional. Wasn't an option.
Code?
It didn't say code, but he said it was a requirement. Yeah.
Whatever.
It didn't say code. Maybe it is code, I don't know, but they said it was a requirement for the type of building. There was another issue that was raised around some extra cost. I don't know. It was like there was 2. So yeah, so they spoke to that and assured me and Director Shadrack, to our satisfaction, that it wasn't an option to weigh that aspect of the bid or the cost.
Just one last comment. Could we be kept apprised of the start date and when start date for phase 1 and when the phase 2 tenders may be available?
For sure, on the phase 2 tenders, there was, Andy and I both put quite a bit of pressure on the regional district around that, and I feel pretty confident that they're going to make some kind of arrangement on the bonding for those next segments of work, that it should be way more accessible to local contractors. The CAO was emphatic that for the size and the scope of phase 1, that they were not going, it just was not going, they were not going to waive the bond. It just wasn't going to happen. It was a non-starter. For the next phases, we've been assured that they'll be much more accessible and they'll be broken up into a lot of smaller chunks. And I also believe there was mention of the ad hoc group being consulted, maybe not in a full way, but at least I think there's going to be some direct communication from Terry Swan to you guys on some of the status of that stuff, and definitely I'll keep you posted on dates.
Okay.
Right now we don't have any dates on phase 1. It's kind of all in the air. Nobody's ready yet.
Okay.
I'll just make one brief point, but if anyone wants to ask me about it later, the building inspection service has only just gotten hold of the drawings, so there may be some interesting exchanges to be observed in the next few weeks.
Okay. Any reports?
Well, I was going to give a verbal on the UBCM, but my written report will come out for next week, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so fine. Councilor Lang?
I'm fine.
Okay, so last week was very busy. The Southern Interior Action Committee had a navel gazing exercise to determine how they want to handle the next 2 years and dealing with the $2 million. How are they going to do that? How could the election committee improve its governance model? So that's in play. The other thing is on interior health, there was a pre-conference meeting with Maggie, Tom Humphreys, Andy, and myself to give some form to the conference call, which will occur tomorrow, which I won't be able to be at. And so they have 4 talking points, and I didn't write them down. I don't know. One of them was the Ross report. Where is the Ross report at? And so that conference call will occur. Well, then today, just as Neil and I were going through the agenda, they phoned to try and arrange a meeting with Andrew Nooner. Was he bringing anybody with him, or he was coming to
It
himself?
sounds like himself.
Yeah. Well, this conference call is with Dr. Purdon, who tends to be the go-to guy at this point in time. So Andrew Nooner's coming here. I think he's got other business in Nelson. He's coming up here at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and wants to meet with the health group. And I said, well, you know, we do have an agenda based on what Dr. Purdon wanted and what we wanted, which will be discussed Wednesday, and that maybe Mr. Nooner could expand and explain. And it got down to that, what's that 24/7 community health care? Yeah, community health care 24/7. So I was a little less than diplomatic, and I said, well, what is it? I mean, we need the excruciating details, ambulance service, nurse practitioners. What do you mean when you say that? Because we were totally blindsided in terms of what does that look like. So he felt that Mr. Nooner could address those situations. So Monday's meeting, I don't know what Andy's got, because like he's saying, he just sprung it on us. I'm available, Maggie's available, or I don't know if Maggie's available or not, she probably is, but Tom will be available. And Tom's got all that legal stuff down pretty tight. Okay, so that's where that's at. And then, big marks to Carol, some PhD geologist came into the office and was asking about Keene Creek and Kaslo, and she just talked the guy up. Did you hear part of the discussion? Anyway, so she gave me his card. I phoned the guy tonight. They're very interested in Keene Creek, some exploration dollars next year. Cream Minerals, I don't know if you've heard of Cream Minerals or not, and I think the settles are involved in that play. But yeah, so I told this guy, anything we can do to help, in terms of exploration dollars, drilling, and all that other stuff. So he said he had to write a report, and he would be back next year. And that's all I got. Okay. Okay, so those are the reports. Bylaws, there's no, quarterly personal interest reporting, verbal. That's done, right? Or is it?
There's specific ones that you're supposed to report on quarterly.
Oh, right.
So as I said last week, I don't have really much else to report because I've been waiting for Neil to have some free time, which seems like it might be never.
Yeah.
But ultimately, because mine is to do with village-owned lands, and I've got the inventory, and I need to review with staff which ones have existing buildings on them, because it's just a list of lots. So at this point, because I don't know the folio numbers, I don't know which ones, but ultimately what I would like to find out is, which parcels there are and which ones are serviced, which are more likely to be saleable, and what kind of, not conditions on sale, but something like that, that we're not just doing it to get, quick cash, that there is going to be, if it's a large parcel, that there is a plan in mind by the developer, to develop it in a certain length of time, because we want to get more properties out there for people to build homes on, so not somebody to just buy it and speculate. So there's got to be, I'd like it to be clear that we have a development plan, that we want them to put roads on, like they have to be paved roads, there have to be sidewalks, whatever it may be. That was what I was looking at, not, like I said, not just as a way of getting quick cash and somebody else sits on it for years and sells it, for bags of money. Because the taxation gain is going to be minimal. We need it to be developed. So that's where I'm at, and those are the kind of things that I'd like to speak with Neil about and go from there.
Councilor.
So road closure still on your radar?
That wasn't part of it. No, I was just on the, but if there's an adjacent road to one of those parcels, then.
Well, maybe we can get it included in our discussion when we get into the finances.
Was your priority airports? You want to?
Yeah.
I think we discussed that. Do you want to add to it?
Yeah, I just, C.L. Smith made a comment that we had been approached by a paving company requesting certain volumes of aggregate. I'd like to discuss that with you in terms of the exact location where that material might come from. Basically, you and Glenn, because I would defer to Glenn's at the end of the day anyway, but I think there's an opportunity there to maybe move some material around that we might consider surplus to our needs at this point in time without actually continuing to mine at the existing pit, but that's a discussion for later.
Sure.
Councillor Holland, what was your area? Was it arts and culture?
Economic development, and carrying on front, the RDI is ramping up summer activities, and the stuff that's going on in SES is primarily what we're doing, and we're still limping along on some sort of baseline economic analysis and leading to business retention expansion. And SES is having a real hard time finding a meeting day right now, so I don't know what's going to happen in the short term.
Susan, did you, I know one of mine was the recreational. Have you got the list of things there?
Oh, no, I don't. It would have been,
One of them was micro hydro,
yes.
and there were two issues there. One that Carol identified, which, and we give her some marks for that document she produced with all the various fundings, but there was one there, $10,000 for micro hydro, which by resolution, we took it from gas tax money based on the urban systems report about micro hydro from our water system. I still kind of regard that as in play, but not immediately, to electrify the airport, actually. And then in terms of the Kaslo River, unfortunately, when I went and looked at it again today, the major failure that they had down into the Kaslo River this last spring that was addressed by Val and I forget his name. When they came as a delegation, they want to stabilize that slope.
Oh,
Ken Butt, yeah. So I went and looked at that again today, and that's a pretty big undertaking because it failed right up to where the old penstock route was. So, like you can see where the old dam was there. Like there's logs in the cement there that they kind of bulked it up with. So anyway, that's going to take a little bit of work. The other one was the recreational spectrum. I talked to John Addison, who's making the maps based on, he did that 20 years ago for the Forest Service. But that's kind of a regional thing in terms of snowmobiling, ATVing, heli skiing, heli hiking. There's a way to look at the terrain and analyze how that might come together and how you relate to the Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Management, because now that all has to be permitted. So John's been working with the chamber and with the airport group, so he really has had a lot of time. And I forget what the third one was.
I should have got that.
That's all right. That's all right. No, anyway, I must admit that interior health has just made my life very complicated in terms of issues. Yeah.
I've emailed you all the letter that I think the director was talking about.
Yeah, I just put that.
Yeah. The intent when we wrote that for Councillor Lang to take down to UBCM wasn't to attack the ambulance service in any way, really.
Well, it's a different organisation.
Yeah, I can see that that's been read into it somehow, but the intent was to open a dialogue with the ambulance service, really.
Well, I think the letter
Is that the letter they're talking about?
It must be. There's no others.
No. It was an article in the Nelson Star, and unfortunately, the headline said Kaslo Council slams IH8. That was the heading on the letter. It wasn't a letter. It was just an article by the Nelson Star about the situation in Kaslo here and the resolution that was passed.
They said it was a letter from the village of Kaslo, not from the Nelson Star.
Well, the village of Kaslo never sent them a letter, but my point is there was an article in the Nelson Star that came out the day that they were there, and I clip all those things and put them in my file because, as usual, the press doesn't always get it right.
The other letter in question. Sorry to.
Yeah,
the other letter in question is actually in numbers under 6. I threw it in there, the one that the village sent to Dr. Granger Avery. Those are the only 2 letters this summer the village has sent on the subject of healthcare.
Anyway, to address that issue, the healthcare group have appointed Maggie as the contact person and given her the clearance to discuss 4 specific issues that are before the healthcare group at the moment. So, if somebody phones me or phones Andy, we will refer them to Maggie Winters to provide comments on, and we're almost reached the point where we want the newspapers and other media to send a draft of what they're going to put out there so that we can check it for accuracy and da-da-da-da-da, because it is kind of, in terms of the website, the Castle Health website, I don't know how many of you have been on that Facebook site, but that's, exciting. So that's all we got there. So there's no bylaws, new business. Yeah, sorry.
Your last one was Knowledge Business Network.
Okay, well that ties in with the broadband, right? And attracting people, and I think that's going to become a marketing effort but I'm a little concerned, as is the CAO, about where Columbia Basin Broadband is going here. Mm-hmm. And until that's pinned down, it's kind of hard to attract people to Kaslo until the uncertainty goes away there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about this federally, provincially, about attracting people to rural communities that make their living on the internet. It's coming up with a marketing strategy. And you remember that girl from Rossland there that was at the AKBLG 2 years ago? Did you go to her presentation?
No, I've never
Oh, that's
been
right,
to
you can't
AKB
get
yet.
that, yeah. Anyway, she's quite a firecracker, and she was actually at a Chamber of Commerce meeting in the cusp, and I'd really like her to come at some point and talk to us about the way in which she thinks communities like Kaslo and Rossland is a good example, can attract these people. Where are they, how do you get to them, and what services do they need? So that's it. Anything else? There's no bylaws and new business. We put 2 items under new business.
Yeah, the letter from Mrs. Braley and the letter from Erica Bird under 9.
I'll move the mayor's recommendation for discussion regarding the response to Ms. Brady's letter.
Seconder? Second by Councillor Lane. Discussion, all in favor?
No, well, so we gotta discuss.
Yeah.
So where are we gonna put the boulders? That's the key question.
Well, I was going to leave that to the CAO and Glenn. But what they have to do is leave a pickup width so people can get through to get their kayaks and canoes and whatnot to the water. That was my thought. And my idea is to do something. And the nice thing about boulders, they are movable. And they're cheap. We got all kinds of them up in the pit. And if it's not working, we'll just reposition them. In fact, so that's as far as I got. I think it addresses the issue in some reasonable way on a trial basis. But, Councilor?
Well, I just walked down there on Sunday with the dog, and there actually are a number of boulders that prevent people from going right to the water. And so if we can continue those on and let them have access to the little launch area, because hopefully people wouldn't stay there, but I think the issue has been they've been going further down the beach, right? Like not just at the launch area, but they're parking right on the...
There's RVs going down there. There were some down there at the weekend as well. It's not... I mean, I suppose it's a Ministry of Forest enforcement issue in some ways, but because it's crowding. But in the summer, we do have the issue of people camping in beautiful lakefront areas for free, and people peeing inside the campground. Of course, they get services inside the campground, but it could generate, because that nice clearing work was done by persons unknown. It's opened up that as a point of potential friction.
Be good to block it off. One of our local culture characters likes driving his pickup truck out in the lake, sitting there and having his morning coffee.
So would the recommendation be that the CAO and Glenn come up with some boulder configuration and as a trial?
So just add to the recommendation as determined by the CAO and Public Works Foreman.
And Councillor Lane.
Sometime before now, next summer, maybe you could sort of try to identify the scope of the problem, because I don't really think it's as huge a problem as what is portrayed in this letter. I know there's a lot of activity there around Jazz Fest, and I don't have a problem with that. It's one weekend out of the year, and it's tremendous for the local economy. But I'd just like to try to get a better hand. I hate killing flies with sledgehammers, and that's kind of what I've sensed.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that putting the boulders there shows some action on our part.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you know, and see how it works out, if that limits the situation. Because, I mean, I have seen people park right, you know, next to the low water.
Right.
That's usually later on in the year, because at May days it's pretty high. What was the next one there? Erica. Was there any, need the CEO to respond to that?
I have actually sat down with Ms. Bird about her letter, because I was able to answer most of the questions that she posed, and didn't think it was right she had to wait for. She sent it right just after the last meeting, but I can certainly provide her with a formal response explaining the process that's occurred with regard to the firewall. And what Councillor Holland was just talking about.
You're on the record, I think you're going to be sending a lot more.
So I'll move that the formalized response be given to Ms. Bird in response to her correspondence.
Second by Councillor Holland. Discussion, all in favor? Motion passes.
We did ask in that meeting, it's some stuff's coming out, I should have taken notes of the meeting. It happened really fast. We did ask that the regional district make a better effort at communicating with the community around so maybe I don't know if it's appropriate if council would like just to send a little nudge down to Brian or Terry Swan, just ask for a public service blurb or something just in the local, like an opinion wise and Valley Voice about where the project's at. Mm-hmm. And maybe they might want to wait until they actually get some dates.
Right.
But they haven't been doing enough of that, I don't think. And Andy and I asked for that, but it wouldn't hurt if council backed it up to just a little friendly request for a little bit more public communication.
Got that?
Yep.
Okay. Motion to approve the accounts payable. Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. All in favor? Motion passes. And
Do you need an amount with that in the order?
So they recommend pull up
55, 9, 67, 75.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably should have an amount. Or it could just be a blank check we could sign.
Go for it.
Yeah. Fill this in later.
All right.
okay. And then, so all in favor? Okay. Motion passes. Then final financial report, the grant summary. Did everybody have a chance to go through that grant summary? Mm-hmm. And I really think we should commend Carol for putting that all together and starting us down the road of, you know, seeing where we're at. And I'm sure this will play an important role in the budget discussions. There's $300,000 in the gas tax money. Yeah.
She actually had been doing this for quite a number of months, actually for probably over a year, and it had been going to municipal services.
Oh,
so
I
we
see.
have it on a regular basis.
Oh, okay.
So we've just
Okay.
got several new ones added to it.
Yeah.
No, this was a good piece of work from Carol, that certainly helped get me up to speed on
Right.
the project as well. We're fairly active.
And there being no further business, motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Lang. Second by Councillor Hall.
You don't need a secretary.
Oh, right.